Welcome, everybody. We're here again, another episode of Chime In, and we've got Kory Prince with us from Alberta, Canada. Kory, thanks for joining us, buddy. Actually, is it Edmonton? What'd you say? Edmonton, Alberta, Canada?
Yeah.
I can't
Edmonton's
remember.
the city,
Jeez, man.
Alberta's the province, and then Canada's the country. Edmonton,
There you go.
Alberta.
I didn't go to geography class in college, Brett, but apparently Brett's whole family is from there. So that's pretty cool, Brett.
Yeah.
Good fact. I'll quiz you at the end.
Don't do that.
So let's pay attention here. So let's get right into it. Kory, tell us how your team looks, what the structures, and how long you've been using Chime, just so that we get a picture into your world.
Sure. So I got into the business in August of 2010 originally. So this was in Vancouver, Canada, which is on the coast. And I originally just realized that very early on, online lead generation was probably the only way to generate business that's really scalable and consistent. So I got involved in that very early on and decided I was going to be in production myself for a period of time, but then I was going to eventually try to get out of production. So from the very beginning, I knew SEO, online leads, and stepping out of production and having more of a business as opposed to a really high-paid job was my goal. So I did that, generated a team, put it together, and moved back to Edmonton actually about 2.5 years ago, just to be closer to family, ironically, where Brett's family's from. My family's all from here too. So to be from family, my team operates mostly in Vancouver as well as a little bit here in Edmonton. So right now I have an agent in Vancouver that helps run that side, and then an agent here in Edmonton that helps run that side. And I'm completely out of production, so I don't sell at all. I rely on, that's the last 2.5 years, last 3 years. So I rely on Chime. One of the reasons I joined Chime, which was really important to me, is the AI assistant allowed me to not have to do all those remedial tasks, if you will. And basically, as I think Brett puts it, triage leads from a high part of the funnel down to a low part of the funnel. So I only deal with people that have actually reached out, either replied to a text, replied to an email, phoned back after a voicemail drop. And then out of that, that's when I start feeding them to different agents based on how qualified I think they are.
Can I just stop right there? Isn't that last sentence you just said what agents dream about at night and have been for the past 10 years? Is just only responding to the leads that have raised their hand and responded back to you, and doing it in a scalable way to feed a whole team.
Yeah.
I mean, are we there? Are we in real estate tech nirvana yet? Like, tell us about that.
You know, the reason it was really born out of necessity, because I was generating a lot of leads. I've been doing Google pay-per-click for 11 years. So I do my own, and I probably put too much time and effort into it, learning it, when I probably should have just hired somebody in the beginning, but I did it. So I spent 3 or 4 hours a night for like 5 years and just figured out what Google pay-per-click, how it works. So I get pretty inexpensive leads, which allows me to get very, very, very high volume of leads for a relatively reasonable cost. And that's what makes the AI assistant so attractive to me. I've been with competitors of Chime before, and none of them had anything close to the AI assistant. And I'm really interested in techie stuff. I'm not the kind of person that really wants to go out and sell a ton of real estate. I'm more like somebody who likes to be behind the scenes and do the tech stuff. I'm super interested in machine learning. And that's how the AI assistant actually learns, is through machine learning. And a buddy of mine actually is a data scientist at Twitter, and he's got a master's in machine learning. And I'm thinking of even taking a course just in my spare time on machine learning, because I'm so freaking interested in it, because I think it's really the future to large data sets and really low response, which I think online leads are a perfect example of. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people sign up, and you're just throwing stuff at a wall, seeing what sticks. It's not super effective, and it burns people out. So being able to scale up a really effective follow-up plan that you can actually have projected response rates for and projected outcomes, I think is one of the reasons Zillow has done so well, is they use data science to do that.
That's very true. That's why they just bought Showing Time too. More data.
More data, more data points. A larger data set means better outcomes when they use machine learning. It's just a fact.
That's right. Brent, were you going to say something, or were you typing a novel?
I'm doing my usual novel thing.
I hate you.
It's so funny because Kory and I used to call each other like, I mean, dude, what was that, like 16, 17? We were calling each other just like, he would get me at like when I was at like my meltdown, because at the time we didn't have AI. None of this stuff existed. And so he and I were like trying to do our own version of this with like, remember when we were using like Zapier and all those other like, how many
And
different
Riley,
ways?
and Get Riley and Zapier. And remember the day yours broke and your world came unraveled?
I think you saw me like 2 bottles of tequila in.
Yeah, no, we were texting at like 3 or 4 in the morning and you were circling the drain hard.
it was a bad day. Kory is one of the few people that has actually seen like me at my worst, which was when I was my busiest. And there, so he has worked me through several problems. I've helped him through several problems, and it's cool to see him now using the AI that he and I were both really hoping for. Like when I was really busy, that God, I would have killed for this.
I was literally looking into building an AI framework through Amazon for real estate when you reached out to me and told me about Chime initially. And I was very reluctant to switch CRMs because I'd been with the other one for about 5 years. Mm-hmm. And I just knew resource wise and like tech wise, I wouldn't be able to develop what they developed. And when I learned they built it on the Google Assistant framework, I was just like, I was so impressed that I believe in that framework and that ML. So yeah, I'm just super excited.
That's what got me too, man. I want to talk about that a little bit. Where do most of your transactions come from? Referrals, a Sphere, online leads? What does that look like?
Oh, mine's heavy online leads, in the 80 to 90% online leads.
All right, so take us through the process here, because we ask all of our guests. Take us through the process of when you get a Google PPC Facebook lead ad, what happens and how does the AI take over?
So the way I have it set up now in Chime, it comes in as a lead, has a source based on where it came from. Let's say Google pay-per-click is the source. The AI is turned on to work that particular source, so it's a new lead. I think AI does about 4 or 5 text messages now in the qualification process initially. It works through that, and then it either does one of 2 things. It either assigns a tag of AI no response at the end of that 5 or 6 day period, or it tags interested, needs financing, wrong number, a bunch of other tags. Okay. So based on what it tags will determine what branch it goes off in the triage, essentially, right? So if it tags no response, then it just starts a series of SMS texts that go out for about 2 years, as well as an educational video series similar to what Brett does, which just isn't selling. It isn't saying, use us, we're a great real estate team. It's educating them on things that they may or may not know so that you establish yourself as an expert in the field. If the AI tags no response, like it tags interested or something, I don't trust it to the point now where I'm going to assign a follow-up plan automatically. So what it does is it triages and it goes into a particular pipeline stage that I call active convo, so active conversation. And then I individually go in there and look, and I'll have 30, 40 of those in there at a time. I look at each one, I see what the conversation is, and then I determine what I do. Sometimes I put them into long-term nurture. Sometimes I put them into hot or warm. Sometimes I call them and try to set up an appointment or build rapport. Depending on what stage they go in, determines what level of automation they get, essentially.
Do you have the AI work on any of your leads that you're nurturing? Or
yeah, that's actually more attractive to me than new lead triggers, because I have a database of about 61,000 leads right now.
Dude, so you're slacking. Yeah, you need to catch up to Brett Baker.
You know how much money is being left on the table when you can effectively work 61,000 leads? Like, so the existing triggers that are there through Chime now are great, and they actually just added 2 new ones, which are really awesome. I think the 2 new ones are whether they've had a high interest opportunity trigger at any time, which is good. And then the next one is if they haven't, I believe that they haven't visited the site at a 2-week and a 4-week interval after sign up. So those as well as, yeah, those are brand new ones that I don't even know if Chime has announced, but it's in their docs now. So I think it was February 8th or 9th that they put that in.
They announced it. It just, I don't think anybody's taken advantage of them yet, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, it's the existing lead triggers are super, super attractive for me because when you have a large database, you need to know, not just based on lead score, because you can have thousands with a high lead score. You need to know which ones of those high lead scores are actually going to be worth your time, because you can only call so many per day and you can only do so much per day face to face, or sorry, like one-on-one on the phone, right? So you want to know like I'd say the top 50 is what I have a filter for based on a bunch of different things, the top 50 every day. And then I go in and I call those.
What am I looking at here?
These actually, so it's funny that Randy beat me to this. Those are the new additional existing lead triggers that they just released about 2 weeks ago on the AI assistant. So it basically you can now use the AI assistant to engage high interest opportunities, and you can use it to anybody that's been technically inactive. This is actually tomorrow's topic on Chime training.
Nice.
But this is, in my opinion, probably the biggest game changer that I've seen Chime roll out in a while.
Dude, I love this.
Yeah.
What it can do is it allows Chime to use artificial intelligence and machine learning to continually hone this, so that over time, through thousands, if not millions of leads through people that are using it to work it, it can figure out better outcomes and better decision trees, essentially, right? And then when it does that, once you have a lead, until they basically said, hey, I want to see a property, or I want to give a value on a property, at scale, it does exactly what it needs to do to have the best outcome. And we all know that no matter how good you train agents, they're not going to follow a process that exacting. It's just not going to happen, right? So it's amazing. It's amazing.
Quick side note: if anyone wants to know where the updates are, go into your Chime CRM, click on this question mark, this drop down, click Chime updates, and it will show you all of the updates. These are not, and just so no one gets confused, these do not stand for dates. This is version 3.2.20, version 3.19. So you go on this, and now you've got your updates.
All right, I have a question on that. How do you turn it on for those people that are wondering if they're part of the AI on the AI assistant? Where do they go to turn this on for these inactive leads? Is there a specific place under the AI assistant, guys?
Yeah, it's in the settings.
Let's see.
Well, I mean, I can take you guys. Hold on, let me show you.
But I thought Randy was going to reply because he works there.
That's what I said. Come on, Chime employee.
Yeah. I got you.
He's still recovering from knee surgery.
Yeah. I would show y'all what my knee looks like, but it might be inappropriate. It's kind of gross. But that's why I'm on a couch, by the way. I've got my knee propped up. But anyways, when you're in your AI assistant settings, if a lead matches any of the criteria that you've set for the AI assistant, the AI assistant is going to engage with them. So even if they're old leads, it will still engage with them. There's a few places you need to look to make sure you're getting all the criteria appropriate. First, which website, if you have multiple websites, like if you have agent websites, you're a team leader or a broker, what have you, you want to make sure it's turned on for the appropriate websites. You want the appropriate lead source tagged here as well. So you can customize which lead source is being interacted with, as well as lead type, assigned agent, right? If there's a particular agent who says, no, I don't want this awesome piece of technology, you can take it from them. Lead source here again, pipeline stage, right? So anyone you have marked as closed or do not contact, you can take them off.
All right.
And then two other things I would point out here is the fine print, if you will. All right, so right here. The AI assistant will follow up with existing leads that match the following conditions. A, open property alerts, but have not clicked on the links in the email, right? So they opened the property alert, weren't convinced to click on a property, AI engage.
I love that.
Back to the site with incomplete search criteria, right? So their property alerts aren't fully filled out. We will engage to get more of that information. Back to the site and makes a request that triggers an opportunity. B, during the conversation, the AI assistant works to complete the lead's info and will notify the assigned agent with the result and whether they need to follow up. So this is the information that you need to know in order to see when the AI assistant will or will not engage.
I love it.
Those two new triggers will be added to that terminology on that page, I assume, because they're not there yet, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. That was the next question. All right, question for either Kory or Brett. And it's from the audience. It's from Adam. What's up, Adam? I'm just coming on to Chime and I'm importing about 10,000 leads. What's the best way to get them started with AI?
We have the same answer.
Go ahead, Kory.
Starts with an M and ends with ERT.
What's that?
Starts with an M and ends with ERT. It's a guy named Mert.
Yeah, Mert.
A really smart developer guy has developed a way to not only transfer the leads over, but import their property alerts as well at scale, which is what I did and what Brett did.
But to get the AI engaged in that, there are several ways you can do that. One, you can import based on a source. And get the AI assistant follow up with that specific source. That's one way to do it. The way that I would probably do it is I'd set up a smart plan for that specific source, and anybody that comes in assigned with that source will start getting the smart plan. And as they go through, the AI should pick up on that.
Yeah, based on their actual interest as opposed to
That's
everybody. Correct. Yeah, I agree with him.
Yeah. I love it. Then
I actually have a question for Kory.
Go shoot.
And this is good because Kory and I have been friends for what, 7 years now? God, seems like forever. 7 years. So when I first met you, Kory, you were a phone animal. In fact, when I talk to people that are phone animals, your name is like usually the first on my list, because I remember back in the day, you would literally sit there with your big old headset on and make like phone call after phone call. Yeah, like what Randy has over and over and over again. How much has the Chime AI reduced the amount of time you're spending on the phone?
Oh, it's drastically. Like I'm working 61,000 leads. I'm the only one that works it. The other agents actually, for the most part, don't work leads on a regular basis. They just deal with appointments that I set up for them with people that are basically hot and qualified.
Okay. Are you basically, just hear me out on this. Are you essentially, you're the ISA for your agents?
Pretty much. Yeah. That's basically what my job is. Not full time because I don't need to do it full time.
Right.
But yeah, I'd say 4 hours a day. That's basically what I do during the week. Yeah.
It's funny because I remember back in the day with the other provider that I can't mention or they're going to turn me off here. But the old provider, you were literally like 8 to 10 hours a day prospecting.
Yeah, I was calling a lot. One thing they didn't have, which I really wish they did, was algorithmic lead scoring. So when you have very few leads, you just call them all and you just do what you do and you increase your skills and you do better. But when you have too many leads, you really burn out just having the same conversations as having really low conversion rate. So having like a lead score of being, okay, I'm going to call everybody over 80 or everybody over 90, and then work on your scripting and work on your process. You'll do better and better, but you'll get 10 times the results for the same amount of time, right?
So this is one of the questions that I seem to see a lot get asked. Give me your day. Like you wake up in the morning. What is the first thing you do when you logged into your Chime site? And then kind of walk us through like a day in the life of Kory.
Sure. It's actually a page on the wall here. I'll just read from it. So first thing in the morning, I get up. Once I've actually sat down and turned the computer on and turned Chime on, I'll go through any tasks. So I'll clear any tasks that are there. I tend not to use action plan or smart plan based tasks. A lot of people will start to use that when they're not super experienced because they don't have too many leads and they're not going to have tasks overrun them. When you get to the point where you're having, right now I'm having 30, 40 signups per day, something like that. If you had a follow-up plan based on tasks, which even if it was once a week or once every 2 weeks for each of those leads, those will compound over time. So you'll have 50,000 tasks and you won't even look at them. In fact, if you get more than 40 or 50 tasks, you'll just forget about it. It's like an inbox. It's like your Gmail that has 5,000 or 50,000. You don't even try to zero it out because it doesn't matter anymore, right? So what I do is I try to clear those as soon as possible. And then I go into my active convo pipeline stage, which is a custom pipeline stage I created. And what I do with that is anytime the AI tags something that's not no response, so it's something to do with a level of engagement, it automatically puts the lead into that pipeline. And then I go through each one of those individually and determine what to do. So it could be put them in hot, it could be call them, it could be put them in nurture, whatever it is, right? But that's like the main funnel. That's really, it starts up here when they come in, that's in the middle because they've actually responded and engaged. The engagement might be just looking or don't bother me, but the engagement might also be, I want to see this property on Main Street. Can you show me? That's further down here, right? So I work through those. Once I'm done through those, I'll call the hot. I do it every 7-day frequency on people that are hot. I do every 2 weeks on people that are warm. And then that's it. The rest of it's automated. Cold, nurture, all of those pipeline stages are nurtured basically the way Brett has instructed people to do because it's brilliant. And voicemail drops. Now with the existing triggers through AI, we'll triage it. So if they're an existing lead and they start doing something the AI picks up on and they engage with them, I won't know anything about that happening in the background until they respond. When they engage with the AI, it will notify me because it will be in that pipeline stage. And then I can decide what to do with it. And that I figure at scale is probably the best way to do it. And I'm always open to improvements, but that's the best way I've figured out so far.
I love that. So John has a question. That means you're using smart plans in addition to AI on new leads or just AI alone, just to clarify.
Correct. Right now I use smart plans because the existing triggers don't handle every scenario that I would want. If it got to the point where the existing lead triggers were everything that every sort of interaction I wanted to do, I would actually rely on them because I know they continue to get better. Well, my smart plan doesn't, unless I'm split testing 2 different smart plans. And with split testing 2 different smart plans, which I'm willing to do, you can't, at least in Chime, you can't detect response rate in texting. You can only do it in email. So if I could split test that, then I would probably keep optimizing the smart plans for text. But it's a pretty complicated problem to solve because it's not one variable, which is response. Because I can make somebody respond to a text by putting merge first name question mark. I'll get a 60% response rate to that. Right. But that's not necessarily going to create the outcome of a closed deal, which is our ultimate goal. Right? Yeah.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. So then we've got a few minutes here. And Brett, do you have any questions for Kory? If not, I've got one. If
you go, I'll come up with more.
You always do. And they're good. And they're really good. So Kory, question. Is there anything that you think people are underusing in Chime when you look at it as a whole? Because you're in the Chime community, right?
Yeah.
Anything that you think, hey, look, you guys should really focus more in on this. What would that be?
That would be the robust automation that's afforded through Chime's backend.
And how do we go about learning more about that? Because I find that some of the agents have the same questions over and over. Where should we go to learn more about this?
There's actually a guy in the Chime forum that I think was on one of these weekly ones, either last week or the week before, a guy named Adam Frank, who's actually quite brilliant in his idea. What he did is he took what Brett did, but what he did is he automated the pipeline temperature regression. So when you put in the hot pipeline, they'll only stay there for 30 days and automatically transfer to warm, 30 days and automatically transfer to cold. And when you don't have very many leads, that doesn't matter because those pipelines won't be very full. If you have as many leads as Brett or I have, hot will swell to 200 leads, and then they're really not treated like hot leads because there's 200, because you have to call them once a week. It's overwhelming, right? So that temperature regression handles that problem, because truly, if they haven't talked to you in 4 months, they're not hot. That's a reality, right? So I think that automation is probably the biggest simple thing people could do. And Adam's very forthright about it. And he actually has videos that he uploads on the Chime forum in his back end, how he sets it up. So he's very upfront, which is really nice of him.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And great question. And I think this is where we'll wrap it up, unless Brett or Randy have anything. Dave says this, and great question. If we sign up for and turn on the AI tool, is it ready to go, or is there a learning curve and setup necessary? What a great question.
It's a great question.
Ready to go.
Yeah, it's
better now than it was a year ago.
Oh yeah, because it's had 200,000 plus leads go through it.
Just from Brett alone.
Yeah.
Which is true, actually. So it's funny, but it's true.
Like I've been looking at the scripts for the AI assistant since the beginning. So I go in and I audit the leads, because I'm triaging them into that active convo pipeline, right? So I'm looking at I was in the beta of AI assistant when it first came out. One of the reasons I wanted to sign up for the program, because I just thought it was the future. And I was looking at the scripting that it was having, and I was like, well, it's good, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter what even though I have a lot of experience with online leads, it doesn't really matter what I think. It matters what gets a result at scale with machine learning and a large data set. And that might sound like code, but that's why when you look at YouTube and you look at Facebook videos, you want to watch them for an hour repeatedly. That is machine learning. It's not just an algorithm, it's machine learning. And it's very, very persuasive.
To your point, I'd like to actually call out a post Brett made the other day in the user forum that I hope everyone saw regarding the custom scripts coming out. A lot of people have these egos about them that they know the best scripts and they know what's going to convert at the highest rate. So as soon as the custom scripts come out, those people are going to dive into the AI assistant and change all of these scripts. And as we know, their results are probably going to tumble. So please, please, please don't try to come up with a custom script for every single thing. If you have a super niche field that you work in, sure, go ahead. Like by all means, that makes sense. But on a day in and day out basis, please don't have the kind of ego that will tell you your scripts are better than hundreds of thousands of conversations being analyzed and optimized. So
to that point, in my career in real estate, I've worked somewhere near 1 million leads, and I have used every form of chatbot, text bot, you name it. I even worked for a company that was a text bot for a while. What I will tell you, when those custom scripts come out, I'm not changing a word, not a single word in any of my scripts, because I may have worked 1 million leads, but I know that Kory's worked a whole hell of a lot of leads. Tristan's worked a ton of leads. And I know that the collective number of the leads have taught machine learning how to follow up best. And you can argue with us all day long, but if we track the two, with your script and without your script, I'd be willing to put money on the human aspect from Chime's AI.
Oh, Chime's, the AI assistant will pull away in conversion. It will get better and better and better. It just will. Too many variables as far as time of day, as far as the intent, all of these different variables that you or I as a person can do well in one given scenario or one circumstance, but at scale, using all of the people at Chime that use this AI, it's unbelievable how, like I said, it's been going on, as Randy said it too, like we're a year and a half of anybody else who starts with a real estate model, with AI, with machine learning. And it's just going to get better and better. And when they add on more features and they do things within the native app, it's unbelievable. I wanted to build it from the start. Now I don't have to.
Isn't this how Terminator started?
I don't.
just throwing that out there. Human learning. Isn't this haven't we seen this in a movie?
Chime's going to become self-aware, and then we're all in trouble.
Yeah, we're
Oh, it's very good. It takes over your team. Sorry, Kory. No.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry, you are considered redundant.
yeah.
Oh, that's so good. Well, Kory, thanks for being with us. I think we need to do this again and then dive into kind of how you run your team, because I'd like to see how you quarterback everything. I think a lot of people can learn from that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think Kory's would be a great team to analyze because and I've watched how you've built it over the years, and it's absolutely brilliant. So,
well, let's do that. Kory, thanks for being on. Brett, Randy, you guys rock. I love your hat, Brett. What does it say on the side?
It's just Hangar 24 Brewery. If you like good beer in Redlands, California.
Nice.
Hopefully they give me some free beer for that plug.
We'll make a GIF out of it.
I like.
I was like,
Good beer.
thanks, everybody.
See you guys.
Y'all take it easy.